These amazing creatures live on the land and in water and have been on the earth for a very long time. Welcome back to another episode of Remnant Stew. I'm Leah.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Steve. Join us today as we celebrate these amazing shelled reptiles. This is Season 5, Episode 13, Turtles, Tortoises, and Terrapins.
Oh my!
If you have an appetite for the strange and bizarre, then pull up a chair and grab a spoon for another intriguing serving of Remnant Stew. Remnant Stew is gluten-free, organic, made from all natural, free-range ingredients, and guaranteed to provide the recommended daily serving of curiosity.
When I was a little girl, so we had my dad ran over a turtle.
Oh, no.
And maybe it was a terrapin. We're going to get into the differences here in a minute. But he broke the shell, but didn't damage the turtle.
Oh.
It damaged the turtle, but, the turtle could still live.
It didn't kill him.
So we picked him up and put him in our flower garden. And I guess the turtle would hibernate there over the winter, but every summer he was in that he stayed around our house like we could recognize him. We called him Shelly.
Shelly. Did his shell ever heal up any?
No, it was broken off on the edges.
I see.
So it wasn't, super damaged or anything, but it never did heal. But it was a way that we could recognize him.
Nice. He was fortunate to survive.
Right?
What about you, Phil? You got a turtle experience?
No, not really. We just see them in the wrong places and we take them back to the nearest water.
Oh,
so
yes.
We have in our neighborhood, going across our bridge into the subdivision, which crosses one of those, amazing gullies. You can look down off the bike trail, and you would see 50 turtles, just their little heads popping up like, feet.
Yeah.
You're waiting for them to say, "Feed me, Seymour."
And we live on the lake. We see new little turtles every spring, and I've put a couple of them in a terrarium every now and then for my kids. We don't keep them very long though, because it's hard to keep them healthy.
Right. What's always amazing to me is why a turtle decides he wants to cross a busy highway. Like, what's on the other side that's any better?
Right.
So I have actually. My wife has stopped the car, and I've gotten out and picked up the turtle and carried him across.
Oh, yeah. We've done that many times.
And the bigger they are, the madder they are that you're moving them.
And if you're going to do that, just know a lot of the times it scares the pee out of them.
Right. Yes. You hold them out way in front of you.
Here it comes.
Well, I remember my first encounter with turtles. I was about 8 years old, and my father had just driven home in his old 1948 Chevrolet pickup truck. In the bed of the truck were about 12 tortoises. Each one had a number painted on its back, number 1 through 12. Now, my dad was the city and county health inspector, so it wasn't uncommon for him to come home with unusual items, but this was quite unusual.
A bunch
even
of turtles?
Yeah. So I said, "What are the turtles for, Dad?" "They're for the turtle race at the Lions Club Carnival," Dad said matter-of-factly. Every June in my hometown of Kerrville, Texas, for 3 days, the local Lions Club held a carnival at the Kerr County Courthouse. There were rides and food and game booths of some variety, but I didn't remember seeing a turtle race the previous year. This was a new event that the local Lions Club had dreamed up. A large circular wooden platform had been constructed about 6 feet in diameter and some 4 inches high. Near the outer perimeter of the circle, the turtle-sized slots had been cut. A circular chalk line had been drawn about 2 feet beyond the edge of the platform. The idea was that the turtles would be placed in the slots, then the whole platform would be lifted up, and then people would place bets on the number of turtle that they thought would win. It's a great idea.
Sure, that'll always happen.
So the first night of the Lions Club Carnival, I was curious to see how this would work out. A couple of the lions were placing the turtles in the starting slots when I arrived. 12 people had to bet on a number. First come, first pick. Soon these 12, plus a larger circle of onlookers, arranged themselves around the circular platform. With a countdown of 3, 2, 1, the platform was lifted, and one of the lions yelled, "They're off!"
Nope.
Except that they really weren't.
These are not fast animals.
The 12 turtles just kind of sat there with curious looks on their faces, and the wagering public shouted encouragement for them to get moving.
Yeah, that worked.
About half a minute after the stage was lifted off, number 4 took a couple of steps toward the circle, which elicited some excitement from the teenage girl who happened to be holding the number 4 ticket, but then he stopped again. In the meantime, number 12 had turned completely around and was headed in the wrong direction. Go the other way, yelled the man who held the number 12.
Nuts.
But to no avail. Then number 2 began to move forward and was making detectable progress toward the chalk line when he stopped to munch on a leaf from a live oak tree that just happened to be laying on the ground. Well, this prompted the woman holding the number 7 ticket to break off a few more leaves from an overhanging oak tree and place them just beyond the chalk line in front of number 7. Unfortunately, number 7 didn't appear to notice, but number 8 did and began a remarkably fast turtle crawl toward the leaves. So then the number 7 woman tried to pick up the leaves, but it was too late as number 8 sped across the chalk line and was declared the winner. The person holding the number 8 won a turtle-shaped stuffed animal. The entire turtle race took about 5 minutes. Evidently, number 8 was both the Einstein and Usain Bolt of the turtle world because he also won the next 2 races. Word began to spread around the carnival for people to bet on number 8. Then the lions declared that the turtles needed to rest, and so the next race was announced to be a half hour later. And during the break, the numbers were secretly changed.
Right? Rotate.
But did the people that changed the numbers also then bet on the race?
No, they were the lions that actually changed them, Anyway, that was my first experience with turtles, and I've always had a happy thought about the thoughts associated with them ever since.
Well, let's learn a little bit about the differences.
Let's learn about turtles, shall we?
Yes. So according to .org.
Yeah.
Turtles, tortoises, and terrapins are all reptiles. They all have shells, lay eggs, and are cold-blooded, as in ectothermic, not sinister cold-blooded.
Yeah.
They vary in size from easily fitting into your hand to weighing over 1,800 pounds.
Yeah.
They can be found everywhere from deserts to oceans to backyard creeks. So, what's the difference between a turtle, a tortoise, and a terrapin? Well, they are generally classified based on where they live and how they use their habitat.
Right.
Turtles spend most of their life in the water. However, I think the word turtle is a lot like Coke. Like anytime you
Right.
see something
It's a
remotely, terrapin, it's a turtle.
Yeah.
But specifically, turtles spend most of their life in the water. Their feet are webbed, which helps them to swim.
Right.
Sea turtles are equipped with especially long legs, which help them to navigate through strong currents, like the East Australian current that the surfer dude,
Totally.
sea turtle
Yeah.
Crush, and his son Squirt navigated in the Disney movie Finding Nemo.
Nepo.
I'm just renaming the Disney movies.
You were totally, man.
Totally. A sea turtle's shell is more streamlined in shape than freshwater turtles. They rarely come out of the water except for when females lay their eggs on the shore. Freshwater turtles live in streams and ponds and also generally stay in the water but do come out to sun themselves on logs or rocks from time to time.
I see that a lot.
They also lay their eggs on shore. And on the lake, like if you sit there and watch the lake, you can see turtle heads pop up from time to time.
Right. Yeah.
When the weather gets cold, turtles often burrow into the mud where they hibernate until warm weather arrives again.
Right.
Most species of turtles are omnivores, eating a variety of fish, worms, and plant life. Tortoises, on the other hand, do not live in the water. They prefer living on the land. Their legs are stumpy, kind of like mine, and their feet are round, not webbed. So those actually were tortoises that you saw racing, and there was a tortoise that was in my flower garden.
Tortoise race, okay.
Their round feet help them to maneuver on the land. Tortoises tend to be herbivores, eating a variety of plants, including grass, shrubs, and even cactus. Their strong front legs are well designed for digging. When the weather gets too hot, a tortoise will often dig a hole and crawl underground to take refuge from the heat.
Well, good diggers then. Huh?
And then there are terrapins.
Yeah.
Terrapins also live both on the land and in the water. They generally stay clear of the ocean, but they can be found along the shores of rivers, ponds, and lakes, and are especially fond of swampy areas.
Okay.
Their diet consists of a variety of plant and animal life. So, if it lives in the water, it's a turtle.
Okay.
If it has round feet and is on the land, it's a tortoise. And if
Gotcha.
it's hanging out by the water but rarely goes in, then it's likely a terrapin.
Okay, that classifies the three pretty well.
But beyond these differences, they're very similar to one another. So unless we need to specify one, we will be referring to the 3 T's as turtles. They're all turtles during this episode.
For brevity's sake, yes.
According to Britannica.com, there are some 350 different species of turtles found in the oceans of the world and on all continents except Antarctica. This is not a large number of species compared to other members of the animal kingdom. By comparison, there are believed to be over 11,000 species of birds. The small number of turtle species doesn't equate to a lack of diversity, as can be seen by the great variance in shell size. The smallest turtle species, like the flattened musk turtle, measure a mere 4 inches in length, whereas the leatherback sea turtles are nearly 5 feet long.
That's a big difference.
It really is. In addition, some turtles spend their lives in very cold climates, whereas others dwell in the tropics. An interesting article from listverse.com called 10 Bizarre Turtle Species demonstrates the variety in the turtle realm. Some of the most interesting species that caught our attention include the following. The Mary river turtle in eastern Australia, which allows algae to grow on its head and shell as a means of camouflage. The algae on its head looks kind of like spiky hair, which gives this turtle the nickname punk rock turtle.
It looks just like that.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's got a green mohawk. Yeah. The Indian flap shell turtle, which has little flaps of skin that close when it pulls its legs inside, sort of like a garage door. Uh-huh. And the pig-nosed turtle of Papua New Guinea. This is the only freshwater turtle with flippers like sea turtles, but its most notable feature is a nose that resembles a pig's nose.
It's interesting.
I saw a picture. It almost has like an extra snout, almost.
Yeah, and it acts like a snorkel and sticks up from the water's surface.
Yeah.
That's really strange looking. And as mentioned earlier, turtles lay eggs in a nest. Some only lay a few, while others may lay as many as 100. In most cases, the mother turtle does not provide any protection or assistance to their babies.
You're on your own, kid.
That's right. Any hatchlings that survive are on their own. Interestingly, the baby turtles have one egg tooth that helps them break out of their shell, and after that, they have to find their own food. So when they're created or when they're formed, they have this egg tooth, but then it goes away after
they escape and get
hatched.
away. Yeah. A little while later.
Right.
The one exception to this rule of babies being on their own is called the brown tortoise, which does protect the nest from predators.
Oh, good for you, brown tortoise. You're advanced.
For many turtles and tortoises, the temperature of the nest determines the sex of the hatchlings. Warmer nests result in more females. Cooler ones result in more males. If a turtle lays eggs in your yard, leave them alone if you can. Yeah. But if you have to move them, be sure to gently mark the top of the shell of each egg with a felt tip marker before you even move them.
Okay, why are we doing that?
The reason, it's because, unlike bird eggs, turning a turtle egg during a certain time of the embryo development will cause it to die. Like the way the turtles are formed, they don't close up entirely for quite some time, and so
you want to keep them upright. Then,
yeah,
basically.
You've got to keep them upright. So when they they're attached to the top of the eggshell, basically.
I see.
Okay.
And so so if you're going to move them, very gently mark the tops so that when you move them, you keep them in the same orientation.
And as you're moving them, keep the top point, the spot up. Right.
Upright.
So basically, the hotter they are, you're going to get a female.
And then the males.
And the more chill they are,
that's right.
You get a bunch of dudes.
I was wondering if you were going to comment on that. I thought we were able to go right through it.
You're welcome.
And get past it, but no.
So I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
And you all thought it.
Yes.
We're just going to leave it there.
We all thought that you were going to comment on it.
Thank you, Phil. Well, now let's talk about those amazing shells. Of all the wildlife with backbones, turtles are the only ones that also have a shell. The shell is made up of 59 to 61 bones, depending on the variety of turtle, and they're covered by plates that are called scutes, S-C-U-T-E-S, which are made of keratin, which is a material kind of like your fingernails.
That's right.
The shell's top is called the carapace, and the bottom is the plastron. Contrary to popular belief, turtles cannot crawl out of their shell. The shell is actually attached to their spine. But some turtles can retract their heads, legs, and feet inside their shells when threatened. These are known as hidden neck turtles. In order to make room inside the shell, the turtle will often have to exhale air from its lungs, and it can make that process can cause it to make a long hissing sound.
Yeah, I've seen that and I've heard that.
Right. The turtle can feel pressure through their shell, just like you can feel pressure through your fingernails. Though strong, the turtle shell isn't as heavy as you might think it is. The keratin contains many tiny air chambers, which make the shell lighter and even more flexible. So-called soft-shell turtles, like the leatherback mentioned above, still have hard shells, but the shell is covered with a tough, leathery skin that kind of gives it a softer feel to the touch. This flexible shell allows the leatherback turtle to dive more than 3,000 feet. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Way down there. An inflexible shell would be crushed by water pressure at that depth. Now, here's an odd little side note. Before the advent of plastics, shell material from hawksbill sea turtles was used in making eyeglass frames, as well as guitars and other decorative items. Now, this is no longer allowed, as the hawksbill is on the endangered species list. But if you see an old pair of glass frames, they might be turtle shell.
And my glasses are fake tortoiseshell. They're plastic.
They're faux.
Right.
They're faux turtle
Faux shell. Now, we mentioned above that turtles have lungs, and they do need oxygen to survive. So how do aquatic turtles obtain oxygen without coming up to the surface? In some species, the turtle's mouth contains a thick lining of blood vessels, which can absorb oxygen directly from the water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
That is cool.
And other species have a similar lining of blood vessels along their anus. In Australia, they call these turtles bum breathers. We call it Phil by surprise. Right?
Oh, it's a family-friendly show. It's a family-friendly show.
We know some people like that.
The ability to absorb oxygen directly from the water allows turtles to stay submerged for days at a time. Now, turtles do not have ears like you and I, but they do appear to be able to pick up vibrations and changes in water pressures that would alert them to the presence of a predator. They also appear to have a good sense of smell. Some turtles seem to have senses or instincts that are really not fully understood by researchers.
I'm not sure about the bum turtles then.
Tracking devices have shown that some sea turtles travel thousands of miles on regular routes and then return to the very same beach every 2 or 3 years to lay their eggs. Though their skin appears to be tough and leathery, it is actually quite sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, researchers have just documented that Galapagos turtles enjoy having their necks rubbed.
Yeah. Yeah. So my niece, who is a zookeeper,
She was on here once.
She was on here once. One of the things that they love to do at the Houston Zoo is that they have the Galapagos turtles, and you can actually purchase an experience where you get to go pet them.
Oh, you get to rub their neck.
They love it.
That's cool. Turtles do not have teeth. Instead, they have powerful upper and lower jaws, which are lined with an edge of keratin. These sharp edges allow them to easily kill small prey and to cut the meat from the bones of larger animals. Their jaws also allow them to chop vegetables into bite-sized pieces. Humans ought to be cautious when handling a turtle, as their bites can be strong enough to sever a finger. Alligator snapping turtles have been known to bite through a broomstick. I saw a YouTube video where a guy was trying to catch catfish with his hands, and he actually caught a turtle in his neck. And it wound up in the ER. That was kind of hilarious.
That's redneck. That's very cut and shoot.
Exactly. I think it was in Florida or Georgia somewhere. Anyway, an old myth states that if a turtle bites you, it won't let go until it thunders.
Yeah, my family.
Oh, no, he'll let go.
My whole Appalachian family believe that. Yeah.
And speaking of handling turtles, it's advised to always wash your hands thoroughly after picking them up due to the possibility of salmonella contamination.
And the fact that they leak.
Yeah, and they leak as well.
They do pee.
Under good conditions, turtles can live a fairly long life. It's not uncommon for turtles to live more than 40 years. Some species include the Greek tortoise and leopard tortoise live to be 100 years old or more. In fact, on the British island of St. Helena, I think that's where Napoleon was banished to, wasn't he?
Yes.
Well, anyway, there's a Seychelles tortoise named Jonathan, and he's now 191 years old.
Oh, wow.
He is the oldest known living tortoise in the world, according to usatoday.com. A different website called oliverridleyproject.org has an interesting fact about how to age a turtle. After its death, the age of a turtle can be determined by cutting off an arm and counting the annual rings.
Oh, that's crazy.
Just like trees, turtles' arms grow rings every year.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That is so strange. Hey, you. Yes, you there listening to this podcast. Have we told you lately just how much we appreciate you? Well, we do. So much. And so can we ask for a favor?
It's an easy favor. If you would, please take just a couple of minutes to give us a review on whatever app you're listening on. It may not seem like a lot, but it really does make a difference.
Yeah, it's all about algorithms, altruisms, Pythagorean theorems, all that techie stuff, which boils down to the fact that it helps other listeners and sponsors find us. So if you enjoy Remnant Stew, it would mean a lot if you took the time to give us a review. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Right.
Well, how about turtles as food and medicine?
Okay.
Turtles and their eggs have long been eaten by people in many parts of the world. According to Britannica.com, in some areas, local turtle populations and even entire species have been hunted to extinction.
Yeah.
This is not a new occurrence. It appears that Native American populations in what is now Florida ate the local giant tortoise population to extinction more than 10,000 years ago.
Okay.
Natives in Madagascar eliminated the island's tortoise population more than 2,000 years ago, and the first European colonists to settle the island of Mauritius wiped out the giant tortoise population in the 1700s. Apparently, turtles delicious.
Yeah, evidently.
Even today, there's a great demand in parts of Asia for turtles as food. In China, turtles, both large and small, are sold for food and for medicine. They were so popular that by the 1990s, much of the native turtle population within China had disappeared completely. So they began to be imported from around the world. The three-striped box turtle and the golden coin turtle are such integral parts of traditional Chinese celebrations and medicines that turtle farms have emerged in other Southeast Asian countries to fill the demand.
Right.
According to LATimes.com, spotted turtles and box turtles fetch up to $1,000 each on the black market in China.
That's amazing.
They are in high demand because of their red and gold markings, which make them symbols of good fortune and status. Legend also has it that when eaten, they are sources of sexual prowess and cures for various ailments.
Well, that's
of course.
That's an interesting thought.
Okay.
Even with the advent of turtle farms, the demand for turtles has encouraged turtle poachers from China to seek far afield for new sources of the animals.
Can't get enough turtles over there, it seems like.
The same LATimes.com article mentioned that in 2017, federal wildlife inspectors were randomly checking packages headed for China at a downtown Los Angeles post office when they were alarmed to find 170 turtles hidden in men's socks in a cardboard box.
Terrible.
The turtles were confiscated and taken to a turtle conservancy located in the Los Padres National Forest. According to one researcher, quote, the Chinese have already driven their own species to near extinction, and now they're raiding ours.
Wow. That's what they're after. They're after our turtles.
The same LATimes.com article quotes a veterinarian named James Lynn, who's an expert on illegal reptile trading. According to Lynn, quote, wild turtle and tortoise populations are crashing around the world. And reasons for that include ultra-rich folks in China who these days collect, farm, and show off turtles at events the size of auto trade shows.
Oh, wow.
Like turtle trade shows. Amazing.
These turtle extravaganzas feature dancers, 100-foot tall video screens, and long banquet tables serving turtle soup and fried chopped turtle meat, which has been sautéed and smothered in sauce spiced with rare herbs.
Oh, that's got to be, that's incredible. You know?
Yeah.
Think about go to a big turtle extravaganza, and they're hosted by wealthy people in China, where you got dancers and, you know.
Turtle extravaganza. Well, you know, that's crazy.
Okay.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, so why are the Chinese so fascinated with turtles? Well, an interesting website from a turtle restaurant in Singapore called, it's sirsingturtlesoup.com offers some insights. Turtles are deeply intertwined with Chinese mythology.
Yeah.
Ancient Chinese believed that the earth itself sat on the back of a giant turtle.
That's why it's a slow walk.
Right. Earthquakes were caused by the turtle's movements. Chinese culture holds four creatures in high esteem as the four auspicious beasts. Okay, here are the four auspicious beasts. These are the phoenix, the tiger, the dragon, and the turtle. It seems like one of these things does not belong, but, you know, the turtle is right in there with the other three, according to the ancient Chinese. The turtle is regarded as a sign of knowledge, perseverance, prosperity, and long life. It is one of the world's oldest creatures. The fact that these animals have been known to survive without food for several months, while seldom suffering illness, gave Chinese society reason to believe that they had magical abilities. Oh, yeah. Do you remember our Season 1, Episode 4 called Lost and Found?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
We had a story about a box turtle that survived in an attic for 30 years.
That's
I think he was eating termites up there. Well, during the Shang Dynasty from 1766 to 1122 BC, the turtle shell was thought to be a representation of heaven. Special mystics called diviners would advise the emperor each day based on markings from a turtle shell. So you're the emperor and you don't know what decision to make. So you call in the diviners. Okay, what does the turtle shell say we should do today?
Well, see, that's interesting. Like,
They'll go read
did the shell change from
Right.
or what? Or did they change turtles
I think
from day to
different
day?
turtles, maybe, yeah. Turtles were thought to be a link between heaven and earth. This animal, according to a Chinese legend, has the knowledge of heaven and earth inside its flesh. The turtle shell symbolized the sky, or heaven, and the flat part of the turtle symbolized the earth. It was believed that a person's soul was taken to the afterlife on the back of a turtle. Consequently, many turtle-shaped graves have been found in the islands between China and Japan.
Oh, that's interesting.
Another website called Taiwan-panorama.com notes that there's an odd twist in the current Chinese culture regarding turtles. That even though turtles are honored, revered, and respected, they have also become popular in pronouncing curses on one's rivals. A real popular diss in China today is to refer to someone as a turtle's egg, or even worse, grandson of a turtle.
Okay.
Calling someone a turtle's hair means that they are too cowardly to take a stand on anything. And if someone refers to a married man as a turtle with his head pulled in, it means his wife is having an affair.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
And now for something completely off topic and off kilter. Brace yourself for the oddity du jour.
Imagine going to a new dentist for a routine checkup, and the moment they look into your mouth, they recoil back and ask you, what the heck is in your mouth? Now, I'd be uncomfortable and probably worried as
teeth?
to... Right, yeah, teeth and a tongue. I'd be uncomfortable and probably worried as to what I did to cause such a reaction. I know dentists want you to quit your job so that you can floss from 9 to 5, but to recoil away from my mouth seems a little overkill. Now, this is exactly what happened to Tumblr user Queen Catradora. I hope I'm not saying that incorrectly. So don't lose me here.
Okay, tell us what Tumblr is first.
Tumblr is a social media website,
Okay.
kind of like Reddit or something
Gotcha, all right.
similar.
Right.
Thank
So don't lose me here. I know a vocal explanation of an online post can be boring, but I promise you, you won't know where this story is going. So Queen Catradora, I'll call her Queen from now on, posted a very simple one-sentence post. Quote, I went to the dentist today, and my dentist, honest to God, said, can I ask you a question? What the heck is in your mouth? This post gained traction as people began wondering what on earth could have made a dentist say that. Bugs, terrible cavities, a cyborg tongue. People were asking Queen to go into more depth because everyone had to know what the heck is in your mouth.
Piercing.
So when she finally got around to giving the people what they wanted to know, it just raised even more questions. Queen prefaces her answer with a story about her growing up in a seemingly normal from the outside town that just wasn't quite right. She talks of how this is a well-known fact to the folks around that area, and that people in her hometown were just weird like that.
Okay, this sounds like the beginning of a M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah. Everyone knew not to go into the farmland surrounding the town since people that did would just disappear. According to Queen, the local news didn't tell of normal crimes, but of horrific ones. A kid was kidnapped and tortured in a house around the corner. A random person was chased down and shot for sport in a really nice neighborhood. And someone was gored to death by a bull while out car shopping are all the types of stories that would constantly litter the local news. Not petty theft or carjacking like our more refined communities.
Wait,
I thought we were at the dentist.
Where
I
are you
wanna
know,
going
I know.
with
where's
this?
this town? I want to visit.
You lost me at the farms.
Right.
And so you
Video?
listeners out there understand, none of us know where he's going with this.
Yeah.
None of us have
I have
read
no idea.
Telling you.
or
This one's a
vetted
doozy.
this story.
Yeah, we might. Censorship.
Queen says that most of the townspeople are on drugs, and that they live really close to a government nuclear weapon test site. She says all
Yeah,
of this to preface
That's
her
a good
answer.
combination right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's enjoy that sentence.
Yeah, so all of this just to preface her answer, and she finally gets down to the point. Most of the kids she grew up with had access to one dentist and one orthodontist who naturally would refer business back to each other. She had a permanent retainer put in, and she remembers that a bunch of other kids her age had the same style of retainer. It kept her teeth straight, and she had no reason to question it until she went to the new dentist for the first time in a metropolitan area, who then had the aforementioned reaction of, what the heck is in your mouth? So Queen
It's a
takes...
tracking device.
Yeah, right. Queen takes a moment to say that, of course, in her hometown of all hometowns, some crazy contraption was being put in kids' mouths, and no one was any the wiser. So as it turns out, her permanent bottom retainer is an extremely rare prototype that no one in the dentist's office had seen, let alone even heard of. So they all stood around gawking at her x-rays in amazement.
Wow.
So commenters were glad that they finally had an explanation, but what the heck was that story?
Where's the town?
Yeah, it raised even more
Who cares?
questions than
What's
it
the name of the
answered.
town?
Yeah, how does a town like this even exist? So one commenter did some digging and found that the town in question was likely that of Tracy, California. Based on the vague news stories that Queen had mentioned, this commenter was able to find news records that were very similar, and even found some more that were just extremely weird.
Tracy, California.
Yeah, in 2009, an 8-year-old girl, Sandra Cantu, was kidnapped and murdered by a Sunday school teacher who said she had no idea why she killed Sandra.
Okay.
In 2018, 4 underage boys were shot and 1 was killed by 4 teenage boys, among many other cases of homicides, shootings, and drug busts. Queen chimes in with a later comment to confirm that Tracy, California is indeed where she was from. Some other commenters go on to tell their own stories of Tracy, and one mentions that the town motto is, "Think inside the triangle."
Okay,
Whatever
because
that means.
there is a triangle. I'll show you. Looked at them on the phone. There's three major highways, three major interstates that surround Tracy
triangle.
that make a triangle. So what happens inside the triangle
Stays
It
inside
stays
the
in there.
triangle?
Altogether, it seems America has a skeleton in its closet, and its name is Tracy.
Tracy, California. Okay.
I got my info from reddit.com, grunge.com, and I think that's it. Just those two, Reddit and grunge.com.
So on the
That-
map, it looks like it's about maybe 100 miles east of San Francisco and 100 miles south of Sacramento.
Sounds like a good country
Tracy,
song.
Tracy, California. Interesting.
What a story.
Yeah.
That was all over the place. Okay.
I'm still baffled.
Yeah.
Well, now you mentioned the Chinese belief that the Earth rode along on the back of a giant turtle. Interestingly, they're not alone in this idea.
Right.
In fact, according to an article in mentalfloss.com, they may have borrowed this thought from their neighbors in India. The article quotes an author named Edward Tyler, who states that the world turtle concept likely first appeared in Hindu mythology. In one early Hindu story, the god Vishnu's altar avatar is a giant turtle with a mountain balanced on its shell. Not only that, the same concept was shared by Native American
Now,
cultures.
that's pretty amazing. We get people from different places all around the world coming with the same idea.
Right. You can kind of see where China and India, but then all the way across to
Yeah.
Native Americans. In the creation stories of the Lenape and Iroquois people, the earth created as soil is piled on the back of a giant sea turtle that continues to grow until it is carrying the entire world.
So again, the earth on the back of a turtle.
That's right. Some native tribes in North America still refer to the continent as Turtle Island today.
Wow.
An anthropologist named Jay Miller notes that the Iroquois saw characteristics in turtles that they valued in their own culture. They demonstrate strength, perseverance, and longevity. See, I get the strength and the longevity. It's just interesting that all these cultures have perseverance. And I guess
Right.
because they're so slow that they just persevere in where they're going. I don't know.
Right. And they live a long time. So
Quoting Miller, most turtles and tortoises are also famously long-lived, giving them a wise, ancient quality that lends itself to mythologizing. Say that 3 times real quick.
Mythologizing. Good word there.
It was comforting for early civilizations to think that the Earth was being led through space by a wise being that actually knows where we're going.
Oh, that's interesting stuff. Now let's shift a little bit. We hope you caught our fantastic episode on mascots earlier this season. In fact, it was season 5, episode 4.
It was really a fun one.
We talked about a lot of strange and bizarre mascots, ranging from high school and college to minor league baseball, and even to corporate mascots, as well as even Uncle Sam. But somehow we overlooked this one in that episode, but there is a major university in the United States in which a member of the turtle family is featured prominently as their mascot. Can you think of which one it is?
No, not at all.
Well, his name is Testudo the Terrapin, and he is the official mascot of the University of Maryland.
Okay.
According to their website, Terps, they call themselves the Terps. umterps.com/sports. I love this name. In 1932, Maryland coach and athletic director Dr. Curly Bird.
Nice.
Let's enjoy that name for just a minute. Dr. Curly Bird. He recommended that the university adopt the diamondback terrapin as the school's mascot. It is also the Maryland state reptile. Maryland's, they must be common there on the shores of the Chesapeake Bay, where Maryland is located, I would guess. Maryland's teams have been known as the Terrapins ever since. The name testudo is taken from the scientific classification for turtles, which is testudines. Well, the following year, in 1933, the student body chipped in to have a large bronze bust of testudo cast, which would be featured prominently on the campus in front of Ritchie Coliseum. The unveiling
this always goes well.
Yeah. The unveiling was a slow tease as ribbons tied to the actual terrapin, which was used as a model, slowly pulled the veil off the statue as the terrapin plodded along.
We're really moving now.
The statue was immediately popular with students, but unfortunately became the target of mischief from the fans of visiting teams.
No, really?
In fact, in 1947, Testudo the terrapin was kidnapped by rowdy medical students from Johns Hopkins University and held for ransom at that campus in Baltimore. Immediately, a large group of Maryland students drove from College Park to Baltimore and laid siege to the building where Testudo was being held. A riot ensued, and some 200 Baltimore police officers were called in to break it up. Testudo was returned, and then a post-riot party broke out among all the students. Testudo was reinstalled on the Maryland campus, but in front of the library this time, where visiting fans would be unlikely to go. It has become a tradition during finals week for students to rub Testudo's nose for good luck and even to leave offerings in hopes of good grades. In 2013, the Testudo statue actually caught fire because of an ill-advised mixture of flammable offerings, including alcohol and a lit candle.
Okay, wait. Wasn't it made of bronze?
It is made of bronze, but evidently somebody poured alcohol on it, and then the candle
lit the fuse.
Yeah,
That's okay.
That's funny.
That is funny.
in fact, that event trended on Twitter for several days.
Flaming Testudo.
Yeah. The Testudo
It's a
statue
hot rod.
is still popular among students at the University of Maryland. In addition, a costumed version of Testudo sporting a giant M on his shell cavorts along the baseline of the Terrapins basketball game. So
That's awesome.
good mascot, the Terrapin there.
Now, I think most of us are familiar with the story of the tortoise and the hare. This tale traces its origins back to Aesop, a legendary slave and storyteller who supposedly lived in ancient Greece from 620 to 564 BC. We say supposedly because there's no written record of him until some 300 years later. A collection of stories and fables that emerged over the years are attributed to him, though, but no one is certain whether they are really from him or not.
I'm disappointed. I always thought he was real.
Remember our season 3 episode 24, Once Upon a Time? That's one of our more popular episodes where we talk about all kinds of fairy tales and fables and everything. And we talk about Aesop's fables. But nevertheless, Aesop's fables have been passed down for centuries, and the tortoise and the hare is among the most well-known.
Right.
The story is about a hare who ridicules a slow-moving tortoise. The tortoise gets fed up with the hare's taunting and challenges him to a race. When the race begins, the hare charges ahead, leaving the tortoise in the dust. The hare becomes so confident in his sure victory that he decides to stop and take a nap. However, upon awaking, the hare discovers that the tortoise has passed him up and is crossing the finish line, winning the race. Aesop's fables generally are attached to moral lessons.
Right.
Among the lessons attributed to this story include slow and steady wins the race.
Okay.
Some people have great natural abilities but are ruined by poor decision making.
Oh, I've seen that.
Oh,
yeah.
or celebrating before before you actually get
Yeah.
And that sobriety, zeal, and perseverance can prevail over indolence and laziness.
Oh, okay.
Numerous variations of this story have been crafted over time
Oh, yeah.
and applied to differing situations. In 1608, a Belgian artist and humorist named Otto van Veen encouraged lovers to, quote, hasten slowly.
Hasten slowly, you kids.
That's right. Don't jump into anything serious.
Yeah.
In a painting, he depicts Cupid pointing at the tortoise as it passes the sleeping hare. A note underneath proclaims, persistence winneth.
Stick with it.
In the early 20th century, an Anglo-Irish writer named Lord Dunsany relates a different take on the familiar story. In his version, the hare realizes the stupidity of the challenge and refuses to proceed with the race. The tortoise plods along to the finish and is declared the winner by his supporters.
Yeah, boy, the guy just dropped out.
He just dropped out, and the tortoise still won.
Win.
Then in 1992, an Indian writer named Vikram Seth reworked several fables in his publication called Beastly Tales, which I love that title. He claims that there is no moral value to be learned from either of the characters. Quote, while the tortoise's victory bolsters its joyless self-righteousness,
Wow.
the harebrained loser is taken up by the media and pampered rotten while the tortoise was forgotten.
Oh, boy. We could make comments about the current media situation in this country, couldn't we? Interesting. Well, I have to say that my favorite retelling of the tortoise and the hare comes from classic animated cartoons.
Absolutely.
Should come as no surprise to anyone who knows me. In 1941, Warner Brothers introduced a cartoon titled Tortoise Beats Hare. The episode begins with a carrot-crunching Bugs Bunny wandering in front of the title frame and then reading and mispronouncing the names of the writers and animators. When he reads the title Tortoise Beats Hare, he spits out his carrot enraged, and he tears up the title card. Okay, I can describe it, but let's just listen to it a little bit here.
Tortoise beats hare. Tortoise beats hare. Tortoise beats hare? What? These spooky guys don't know what they're talking about. What, the big bunch of joints? I ought to know. I work for them.
I ought to knew. I works for them.
So he tears up the title card, and it reveals a forest scene, and in front of one tree is a mailbox with the name Cecil Tortoise. When a sleepy-eyed Cecil opens the door, Bugs bets him $10 that he could beat him in a race. You got yourself a bet there, Speedy, replies
I love
Cecil
that one.
in his drowsy drawl. When the race begins, Bugs is speeding across the countryside while Cecil steps into a Bell turtle phone booth. I love that. I love a good pun. And he calls his cousin Chester Turtle. Cecil tells him about the bet and to, quote, call the boys and give the rabbit the works. Chester calls all the cousins who look just like Cecil, and they manage to show up at appropriate times to baffle the bunny. Bugs shows up at the finish line believing that he had won, only to see Cecil, or one of his look-alike cousins, calmly leaning against a tree across the line. Two more Looney Tunes cartoons pair Cecil Tortoise with against Bugs Bunny. In Tortoise Wins by a Hare, 1943, and also in Rabbit Transit, I love that name, 1947. In Tortoise Wins by a Hare, Bugs tries to learn the secret of Cecil's speed by dressing up as an old man to interview him, and this was actually a take at the time on an old-timer character from the popular Fibber McGee and Molly radio show. That radio show had a running gag of every time he would, somewhere in the show, he would open up his closet and this a long pile of junk would fall out of it, and the saying Fibber McGee's closet became something of a common phrase back in those days. Anyway, Cecil replies that the secret behind his speed is, quote, clean living, friend, clean living. Cecil Turtle only appeared in these three cartoons, but he is the only Looney Tunes character who ever managed to outwit Bugs Bunny each and every time. Now, in researching this, I found something interesting, at least interesting to me, a cartoon lover. In this part of the story, the first episode was created by that terrific and hilarious animator Tex Avery.
Yeah, we've talked about him a little bit.
Tex Avery. Of course, here in the greater cut and shoot area, we love anybody named Tex, but I especially love Tex Avery. The cartoons that he created are absolutely hilarious. They're just off-the-wall crazy. And he loved to go break the fourth wall, as they call it. And,
talk to the audience.
Yeah, sometimes the characters would run off the frame, and you'd see the film going by. Or one of my favorite, it wasn't uncommon. Maybe you've even been to a movie, and a hare will get stuck in the projector. And you'll see it dancing around. He actually drew a hare into one of his cartoons, and it was dancing around for about 20 seconds. And I can see, projectionists all over the country trying to find that hare. It was actually on the cartoon, and one of the characters reaches over and plucks it and throws it off. Well, anyway, about a month after Tortoise Beats Hare was released, Tex Avery and Warner Brothers had a falling out. The following year, he was hired by MGM, and he went on to have an incredibly successful career there. And he created another popular sleepy-eyed character with a drowsy drawl named Droopy.
I remember Droopy.
That's correct. Droopy Poodle was the successor of Cecil Turtle. He couldn't take Cecil Turtle with him because he went to a different studio. So he created Droopy as a new version of him. We have been doing Remnant Stew podcasts for several years now, and we love our listeners. And it's our passion to share crazy and bizarre stories with you. Our continuing goal, however, is to increase our listenership and share our stories with an even larger number of people.
That's right, but growing a podcast audience takes a lot of time and energy. That's where you can help us out. Studies have shown that overwhelmingly, word of mouth is the best promotion tool for the growth of a podcast.
That's right.
So we're asking you to please share Remnant Stew with your friends. Pick out a favorite episode and pass it along.
Right.
We would really appreciate it. And thanks so much already for the support that you've given us. We love you guys.
We really do.
Very much so.
Well, we can't talk about animated turtles without bringing up that fearsome foursome.
Oh, yes.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Absolutely.
In 1983, two young artists named Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird got together in Dover, New Hampshire, with the idea of collaborating on drawings for a potential comic book. One evening, as a joke, Eastman drew a picture of a masked turtle standing on its hind legs, holding a set of nunchucks. He wrote Ninja Turtle at the top of the page. Yeah. Laird laughed and then refined the drawing and added the words Teenage Mutant to the description. Not to be outdone, Eastman drew a team of 4 turtles, each armed with ninja-style weapons. According to Mental Floss, Eastman and Laird began fleshing out the turtles to create a comic book, but they had to give the turtles names. At first, they tried Japanese names, but it just wasn't working. So they tried great Renaissance artists instead. I mean, you know, if you're not...
If you can't do that, you have to
Japanese
go straight...
names don't work,
go to the Greeks.
That's right.
Yeah, makes sense.
So Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo.
Okay.
According to Laird, quote, it felt just quirky enough to fit the concept.
Yes.
Ninja Renaissance painters. Okay.
Right.
They decided to take the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a kind of parody of the superhero comic books that were popular in the early 80s.
Right.
The quote teenage was inspired by the new Teen Titans, which I didn't know that. I didn't realize that the Teen Titans were really that old.
Right. Yes.
The mutant from a comic called Uncanny X-Men, and the ninja from a Marvel comic, Daredevil.
Okay.
In fact, they borrowed heavily from Daredevil for the backstory, as the turtles were altered by radioactive material. Their teacher or sensei, Splinter, is a play off the Daredevil sensei, Stick.
Oh, I see what they did. Yeah.
In March of 1984, Eastman and Laird created a new company, Mirage Studios, so named because there's no actual studio other than Laird's living room.
Right.
Then Eastman used his $500 tax return. Laird emptied his bank account of $200. Emptied his
bank account.
Yeah. Emptied his bank account, and that's all he had, or he just took out $200.
Right.
And they borrowed $1,300 from Eastman's uncle to print 3,000 copies of their first comic book, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. After printing costs, they had just enough money left to run an ad in Comic Buyer's Guide magazine, an industry publication.
That was a good decision.
It was. The ad caught the attention of enough comic buyers that the original run of 3,000 sold within a couple of weeks, and more orders were coming in.
Yep.
Thus encouraged, they ran 6,000 more copies and sold them all by May of that same year.
Oh, my goodness.
They earned enough to pay off Eastman's uncle and split a profit of $200 each.
So he got his bank account back.
Yeah, that's right. So
It took a few
broke
months.
even. They felt, though, they felt like they were onto something.
Right.
So they quickly went to work on a second issue. By January 1985, they completed issue number 2 and quickly received orders for 15,000 copies.
Wow. Okay.
Which was so successful that distributors demanded 30,000 reprints of number 1 and even more of a second print of number 2. These first comic books sold for $1.50 each, but if you want to purchase one today, it will cost you about $4,000.
Yep, that makes sense.
And that first drawing they did as a joke recently sold at auction for $71,000.
My goodness.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
I love stories like this.
Right?
Yeah.
Rags to riches kind of thing. The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic books were pretty violent.
They're
Right,
dark.
yeah.
Yeah.
But when Eastman and Laird were approached about making a Saturday morning kids cartoon, they had to soften up the action and dialogue a bit. Rather than smashing villains' heads with baseball bats while uttering some moderate profanity, the animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles became pizza obsessed and shouted phrases like "Turtle Power" and
"Cowabunga, dude!"
We kind of like the
Right.
Ninja Turtles over here. The original animated series ran on television from 1987 to 1996.
Yep.
Yeah.
Since then, 4 more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle animated series have run. In addition, the first Turtle movie, Ninja Turtle movie, how many times can I say that, was released in 1990 and earned more than $200 million worldwide.
Yeah.
It was the 4th highest grossing movie of that year. Since then, 6 more movies. I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah.
6 more movies
Yeah.
have been made, as well as a Broadway play.
They've all gotten by me somehow, but okay.
When you factor in the TV series, movies, plays, action figures, and other toys, as well as the comic books that are still being produced.
Right.
And all of the cartoons and
everything
for sure.
else. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have produced well over $2 billion in revenue, and it all started as a joke.
That's a good joke.
That's a good one.
Come on, Phil. Let's think of a joke.
Right?
We need to brainstorm.
Come on. Well, that's some great information about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but did you know that they were not the first animated crime-fighting turtles?
No, really?
I did not know that. I didn't know that.
That distinction goes to a Hanna-Barbera character named Touche Turtle. Touche burst onto the television screen in 1962 along with his sidekick, a dim-witted sheepdog named Dum Dum.
Touche and Dum Dum.
Touche and Dum Dum. Touche was the brave, if not entirely competent, leader of the two, brandishing his trusty sword, exclaiming with his catchphrase, "Touche away!" Touche was mighty handy with his sword, and he used it to fight against all the forces of evil that a turtle and a sheepdog might encounter. While he was handy with his sword, he was terrible at pronouncing it, as he would always include the W and stretch the word into 2 syllables, as in sword. I will smite you with my sword. Touche was ahead of his time, and he carried his telephone with him inside his shell. There was a running gag in almost all the episodes that the phone would ring at an inappropriate moment or inopportune moment, like when he was in the middle of a fight, when someone would call for help. Touche would politely excuse himself, duck into his shell, and make the call, regardless of where he was at the time. Touche and Dum Dum didn't have their own show, but they were one of several Hanna-Barbera cartoons featured on their Saturday morning program, which also included other favorites like Wally Gator, Quick Draw McGraw, Augie Doggy and Doggy Daddy, and my favorite, the Hillbilly Bears. They were great. Ma and Pa Rug.
Well, one other instance of a cartoon turtle is the evil turtle in the amazing world of Gumball.
Yeah.
One of my favorite recent cartoons. Starting out as a pet for Gumball and Darwin, who really wanted a puppy, the evil turtle is based on the African soft-shell turtle, which in some cultures is really considered to be evil.
Okay.
It checks out, as the character turns out to be both vicious and indestructible. It terrorizes Gumball's entire family and later their entire neighborhood. Let's wrap up this episode with a couple of turtle myths. Along the coast of the fascinating island nation of Singapore,
Right.
there's a small island called Kusu, which has an interesting myth attached to it. In the local dialect, Kusu translates to turtle, and looking at an overhead map, the island does resemble a turtle.
Yeah, okay.
It seems that once in ancient times, 2 sailors found themselves in distress after the ship went down.
Can happen.
Clinging to pieces of decking, the 2 sailors feared that they were going to drown. Fortunately for them, a kind turtle came along and turned itself into an island where they could take refuge.
How thoughtful.
The following year, the sailors returned to the islands to honor and pay tribute to the island turtle. This became an annual tradition. Over the years, Kusu Island has developed into a popular place of worship and meditation.
Okay.
And for our final myth, we travel to Africa. In African mythology, the tortoise is deemed to be the most clever and wise animal.
Yeah.
One myth details a tortoise named Ijapa. According to an article in Medium.com, Ijapa, through his cunning and wiles, went out and collected all of the world's wisdom.
Wow.
Returning home, Ijapa decided to hide the world's wisdom in the top of a palm tree. However, when he tried to climb the tree to deposit the wisdom, he found that he couldn't grip the trunk well enough to make it to the top.
So wisdom,
Yeah. So a
He
snail,
didn't learn from it. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
so a snail happened by and told him to carry his bundle of wisdom on his back instead of on his stomach. Therefore, he would be able to grip the trunk of the tree trunk better.
So he had the wisdom, he just didn't use it.
Yeah.
It was in a bag
Right.
somewhere else. Got it. Okay.
That's where I carry my wisdom, in my stomach. Now, anyway, Joppa realized how futile his efforts were in possessing all of the wisdom to himself when a snail had proven to be wiser than him. So Joppa then threw the bag containing all of the wisdom down, releasing it back into the world. There you go.
Fine. If a snail's better than me, you can all have it back.
Have it back.
Phil here reminding you to check out our Facebook and Instagram pages at Remnant Stew Podcast. Drop us an email at staycurious@remnantstew.com just to say hi or to let us know about any topics you would like to hear us cover in an upcoming episode.
Remnant Stew is a part of Rook and Raven Ventures and is created by me, Leah Lamp. Steve Meeker researches and writes each episode that we then host together. Our audio producer is Philip Sinkfeld. The oddity du jour is brought to you by Sam Lamp. Theme music is by Kevin MacLeod with voiceover by Morgan Hughes, and special thanks goes out to Judy Meeker. For a complete list of sources for this episode, please see the transcript, and there's a link in the show notes for that transcript.
Well, now before you go, please hit the follow button so you won't miss an episode. Head on over to Apple Music and leave us a review. Boy, we love reading those reviews. Share Remnant Stew with your friends, your family, the Maryland Terrapins, and Cecil Turtle if you run into him. Until next time, choose to be kind and always stay curious. A different website called Olive Ridley Project.
Let's try that again.
OliverRidleyProject.org has an interesting fact about how to age a turtle.
Okay, let's start that sentence over
Okay.
again. The smallest species, like the flattened musk turtle, measure a mere 4 more inches.